Five, four, three, two, one. Welcome to another episode of Law Enforcement and Me. My name is Carmen Jones. I am your host. I am in a bit of a melancholy mood as I bring this episode on because after the fabulous episode that I did last time with my friend Tim Santoro and Tactical Security Solutions in Las Vegas, and we talked about so many wonderful things, I tried to send a couple of invites out for other guests of law enforcement to come on this platform and talk about how we could bridge the gap between the two. Bridge the gap, between law enforcement and of course the community that it serves. However, as I received some feedback as well as some information that the people that do want to come on my platform informed me of, it started to become very obvious that people are looking at this as a political platform. And that is not at all what the goal of law enforcement and me is. I say this every episode. Law enforcement and me is created to bridge the gap between those that are patrolling our streets, our communities, patrolling to make sure that those of us in the community are safe and that we understand each other's role. That being said, I know that we are in a political climate that my parents and grandparents are cringing as they look down upon me and trying to help me with my success. They are cringing at what law enforcement has become, what the community that it serves looks at law enforcement as, and how instead of it becoming something that is worked together, it has become an incredible, incredible divide. So we're trying to make sure that we build that bridge so that there is no longer a divide. Being said, as you all know, every episode I do state that when I ask you to follow and when I ask you to, just take a listen. And if you do decide to make a comment, not to make any negative comments because I do not encourage negative energy because negative energy feeds into something that is really evil. That's not what we are trying to do here. What we are trying to do here is to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we understand each other. So no more political talk. If you want to come on this platform and you do want to talk about your efforts to try to help build this gap, I encourage you to reach out to me. However, if what you want to do is talk about the red and blue of what society has put forth as politics, this is not the platform for you. So moving forward, I'm going to talk a little bit about the previous episode. And as Tim was talking, he was speaking about one of the officers that was first on site when Tupac Shakur was assassinated in Las Vegas, Nevada back in 1996. That was a pivotal moment for so many reasons, not just for the entertainment venues, the entertainment industry, Las Vegas itself, but also for Las Vegas Metro Police Department. And one of the things he talked about was the bike patrol and how the officer, that first officer on scene, was on a bike. And it got me thinking, how many other cities are there in the United States that has bike patrol? So, of course, me living in Baltimore, I wanted to look that up and see what Baltimore has to offer. Baltimore has had a fight or flight with bike patrols since, I believe, the 1960s. There's always been money to do it, and then all of a sudden things fall off. And just recently, there was a video that was sent to me where a police officer in full uniform was patrolling one of the more violent areas of Baltimore, but he was on a bike. And the people that were in the neighborhood watching this guy and videotaping this guy on his bike said they'd never seen anything like that before. This was something new to them. Now, living in Las Vegas, I have seen bike patrol before, mostly on the Strip because the Strip is so dense. It's dense with foot traffic. It's dense with just traffic in general that you absolutely have to get through to certain places as quickly as possible when an incident happens. So the bike patrol for Las Vegas and the Strip is definitely something that's needed. But in a city like Baltimore, where you have a lot of alleyways and a lot of the alleyways become really dark, really dense, really quick. Is it feasible to have an entire patrol service of bike patrol? And then let's talk about the physical aspect of it. If you do have those police officers who would want to be part of the bike patrol, are they physically fit to do something like that? Because a lot of these kids that are running from the police, the suspects that want to run before they want to talk, the suspects that have the illegal stuff in their hands, but they want to run and try to toss it before they ever talk to a police officer. Do the police officers on bike patrol have what it takes physically to bike, to run, and to and to capture a suspect? My brain has just been all over the place. So I don't know where that is. And of course, I have not seen anything like that on any of the shows that I watch, including On Patrol Live. You know, I'm always going to shout out On Patrol Live. I've never seen anything like that. Speaking of On Patrol Live, I did not do a breakdown of last weekend's episodes, but going back to my conversation with Tim Santoro, and we talked about the mental health aspect of policing and how a lot of what's going on in the world today is talking about more interaction with social work. However, on Saturday's episode, I believe Saturday's date was the 14th of June. Saturday's episode, there was a man in Tennessee, I believe, who was in a mental crisis, who refused to get out of his car in this big parking lot, but he threatened police. No one knew if he had weapons inside of that car. He made threats against himself. No one knew if he had weapons inside that vehicle. There was a swelter of police officers that went to this location to try to help this individual out. But he was having a mental breakdown. Apparently, his wife had left him for another man. The, the man was, I don't really know, but two things happened in that scenario. One is the suspect asked to reach out to someone that he could talk to, and he even named that person's name. I don't know if they ever reached out or if the police department was ever able to get that person on the phone and talk to this individual. But there was such a threat that we don't know what happened when that guy decided that he wanted to threaten himself and threaten harm on the police officers that responded to the call. We don't know what was in that vehicle. Now, as a counterpoint, yes, as a standoff continued, yes, I did feel as though that once things had stabilized, there was a possibility that someone with a social work background could have helped negotiate the situation, but we never got to that. So after about an hour and 15 pepper balls into this guy's vehicle, a canine unit did not have to intervene, but the canine unit was there. It makes me wonder about Tim's point. Tim's point was, does social work need to be on that initial 911 call? I don't think so. I don't think a 911 should ever be involved with social work. Now, as I did state, the counterpoint that I wanted to make was that during that whole interaction, it did come to a point that maybe, just maybe, someone with that social work aspect could have helped a little bit. But when you have severe threats of self-harm, police harm, I get Tim's point. So coming from the civilian aspect of things, Tim, thank you for making me aware of that. I also want to shout out all of the women in law enforcement that are not afraid to get down and dirty. There are some things that I've read online from several departments where the women decided that they wanted to get into the trenches with the guys. And sometimes the women getting into the trenches winds up getting the successful end result, which is a suspect apprehension. So shout out to a lot of those women. I knew this was going to be short and sweet, and I'm sorry to go off on such a political platform, but I want to kind of come full circle with some things and say I really wish that there was better communication with the community and with law enforcement. There was a festival here in Baltimore recently, and even though there were officers deployed to this festival, not one time did I see any of the officers interacting with any of the festival goers. I saw police officers who had cordoned off areas of the city and the block so that the street, could have their festival. But I saw police officers chilling in their car or drinking coffee outside of their car. I would see police officers walking up and down the festival areas to see what vendors were there, but I never saw any interaction. The only interaction I saw was when it was time to shut the festival down and the police were trying to get all of the vendors cleaned up, cleaned out of the area so that the street could reopen. There were no conversations. In my observation, as I'm looking at this, I even regretted myself not going up to a police officer and just introducing myself. Hey, my name is Carmen Jones. I have this platform called Law Enforcement and Me. Can you talk to me about how you feel things should change? I didn't even have the courage to do that. So I am sorry for not engaging in any of this myself. Sorry to be so melancholy. I said that at the beginning of my broadcast, but what I do want to end with, I'm always going to shout out law enforcement. I'm sorry. I'm always going to shout out On Patrol Live. You know, On Patrol Live is what I do. Law Enforcement in Me is unscripted. It is raw, and there's a reason for that. And I think my melancholy mood is the reason for that. How many people have an interaction with the police and come home and feel as melancholy as I do right now? It happens more often than we think. On Patrol Live, I'm always going to talk about it because I want to meet Dan Abrams. I want to meet Captain Rizzo. I want to meet Deputy Curtis. I want to sit down with these guys as a civilian and talk to them about the things that I see and get answers to my questions. Maybe one day it'll happen because the country that goes across and not around always has questions. Have to laugh at myself with that. I come from a family where my dad was a radio announcer. And so when you say certain things, you have to say them accordingly. And one of the things that he always told me was that he hates it. And now I hate it. He hates it when people say we're going to go around the country when the country does not go around. The United States goes across. The world goes around, but the United States goes across. But I digress. That's just another topic for another day. I'm going to end this with some positivity. And that is that there has been feedback that I have gotten where people are interested in what it is that I'm trying to do. And I am very happy about that. That does make it feel like what I'm doing is the right thing and it is the right move. But I hope I've given you some food for thought. I hope that when you think about your interactions with law enforcement, you think about the things that you may have learned on this platform or something that you may want to add to your own platform. So I appreciate you for that. That being said, I will say it again. Follow me. I am definitely going to do this a lot more. I'm definitely going to try to reach out more. This is not a political platform. This is to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. And with that, always stay positive, give good energy. Good energy is always going to be the best route to take. Do not fall into negativity. Negativity fuels really, really bad decisions and really, really bad behavior. And that's that. So this is Law Enforcement and Me. My name is Carmen Jones. You guys, thank you so much for the support. And I will see you soon. Take care of each other.